You're listening to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast with Debbie Sasson, episode 120. Welcome to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Debbie Sasson. I went from being a financial advisor, author, and chronic under-earner to building my business to six figures as a financial planner and money mindset coach, and then onto multiple six figures as a full-time money and business coach. I help entrepreneurs create money-making businesses and build wealth using sales and money mindset strategies and in alignment with authentic Jewish values. Now, let's dive in to today's show. Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the podcast. Today, I just want to warn you ahead of time that I have a cold. Last week, I was away hiking. I told you about that my husband and I went on a 3-day hiking trip in the south of Israel in the desert. And the first night in the desert was freezing cold. We slept in tents. This is the first time since I was a little kid that I have slept outdoors in a tent. And it was so freezing. I was wearing my pajamas. I was wearing a sweat jacket on top of the pajamas and a very warm sleeping bag. And I was so cold. And I guess my body was a little bit weak and I got a cold. And all of the sun the next day and the day after was just not enough to heal me. All that vitamin D, which is so good for me and for you, was not enough to prevent me getting a cold. So here I am, a little bit stuffed up, and you're just going to have to bear with me. But I have a beautiful episode for you this week. Last week on the podcast, I shared an interview with my client, Raizy Janklowicz, and today I want to do a breakdown of very salient points from that podcast that I want to make sure that you're taking with you because it was such a full, rich episode. But before we jump into the podcast, I want to let you know that my group coaching program, Lifetime Access, unlimited coaching, and when I say unlimited, I mean unlimited. Every single week, you get unlimited coaching, live coaching from me in Wired for Wealth, and daily coaching in Slack. Wired for Wealth is now open for enrollment. Enrollment is open until March 20th. If you have a business and you want to grow your business, make more consistent money as a Jewish woman, as a wife, as a mother, as someone who has a God-given gift that she is here to give to the world. And I also want to remind you that right now, in this week before Purim, think about Queen Esther, Esther HaMalka. She was put in a certain place at a certain time in the king's palace because she had a job to do. She had a tafkid that she could do. And similar to Queen Esther, you too have a job and a tafkid to do. And I want to help you shine your light more brightly, be more visible, and help you serve your people and grow a profitable business. So many of us are running businesses. We are just running around chasing our tails, not setting boundaries. We're going to talk about that today. And it's time for you to have balance and boundaries and growth in your business while you're serving other people. So go to my website, debbiesasson.com/wealth, and sign up for a sales call where you and I can discuss if making an investment now in Wired for Wealth is the right thing. Now, let us jump into this week's podcast where we're going to discuss 4 very important points about growing your business as a Jewish wife, as a Jewish mother, as someone who has a God-given gift in the world. If you recall from last week's podcast, it was a very short clip at the beginning of the podcast where I spoke with Raizy about her government position. Raizy, as you remember, is a lactation consultant and she's a life coach. She was working for many, many years as a lactation consultant for a government agency. She wasn't getting paid what she's getting paid now. She left the agency since we started working together 6 months ago. And it's important for you to know, as an entrepreneur who's growing your business, that having a job, having a steady flow of cash coming in the door is important for you and for your family. What do I mean by this? Raizy had both her part-time job as a lactation consultant for this government agency, and she was building a business. And what that allowed her to do was have 2 flows of cash that could bring money into her family. Many of us have large families. We have financial needs for ourselves, our husbands, our children. We want to put money into Jewish education, which is expensive. We want to make sure that we're having money put aside for our kids, for their future, for their marriages, helping them get started in life. And let's be honest, there's a price to that. And we're choosing this lifestyle. It is so important to us. And we want to make sure that we can eat food and keep the lights on and keep a roof over our head and keep ourselves in clothing for the seasons while we are growing our businesses. There is absolutely no shame in you having a paid position while you're growing your business. If your family needs money, having a part-time position where you have a steady flow of cash is one way to do it. I'm not saying it's the only way to do it, but if you are growing your business and you are working for somebody else and getting a salary at the same time, that is a beautiful way to bring cash into your family. So if that's something that you're struggling with, when do I leave my job? Or can I do both of them? How do I have the time to do both of them? I know it's a complex discussion, like how do you shift your time from one to the other? And that's something that I worked on with Raizy during our, coaching engagement over the last 6 months. And we're going to talk now about boundaries. And Raizy needed to put boundaries around her time. She needed to put boundaries around her money because there was a lot of bureaucratic and administrative nightmare really in putting in her documents in order to get paid for the work she was doing as a lactation consultant for the agency. And it became a situation where she was not getting the financial return on the time that she was investing, both in her clients for the agency and in all the administrative rigmarole that she had to do. And so ultimately, after several months of us working together, she put in her notice and she left the company. So here's what you need to know is that cash for your family while you are growing your business is important. One way to accomplish that goal is to be working for somebody else. Another way, and one of my other Wired for Wealth clients did exactly this, another way to bring cash into your family, listen to me now, is to borrow money and put it into your business while your business is growing. So many businesses need to begin with a loan. I have clients who have opened dance studios. I have clients who have opened gyms. Nobody opens a dance studio or a gym without borrowing hundreds of thousands of dollars to get themselves going. If you're a coach, if you're a healer, if you're a service provider, we are so lucky that we don't have a huge financial investment in our business. We can spend money, invest money to get our certifications and our trainings, but you don't have a physical space. You work in your home, behind your Zoom, at your computer. That is small potatoes relative to what a physical space requires. So one of my clients, who is also a coach, borrowed money, put it into her business bank account so that she could pay herself a regular salary from her business while her business is growing. She didn't take that cash and put it all into her personal bank account. She was developing the skills of being a business owner where her business pays her a regular salary. And just look at the brilliance. And that is something that we discussed. This client also started with me 6 months ago back in September. It's something that we discussed in October. There was this hustle energy around growing her business that was really stopping her from thinking clearly about how she could grow her business. And once it became clear that, oh, this is what a normal business does, borrows money to get started, she went out, got herself a loan, and everything became so much easier. And now this client, I hope to have her on the podcast in the future, is growing her business, has her offers, she's raising her prices, and things are on a much smoother track. So make sure as a business owner and as a wife and a mother, someone who is the matriarch of a family, that your family has financially what they need. And notice that I said need and not want. As we're growing our businesses, it is often the case that we need to pare down our wants until the business can supply the cash flow that we really desire to pay for our needs, our wants, and our desires in our homes. Number one, make sure you have cash flow in your business to give to your home. And number two, let us talk about boundaries. Again, as a wife, as a mother, as a business owner, as a service provider who is serving her clients. We have so many people putting demands on our time. And if we don't put boundaries in place, people are going to keep coming and they're going to keep asking. And let's also remember our communities. There have been many calls out in my community. We are 5 months into this war in Gaza. The soldiers, the refugees, people need help. People need financial help. People need food. People need space. We are always, as Jewish women, being asked to give and give and give. It is such a beautiful thing. And we also need to put boundaries in place. And on this podcast, I can't tell you exactly where your boundaries need to be. But what I will point out is that working with Raizy, we put some boundaries in place around her time. There were people that were calling her at all hours of the day and night, to help her so that she could help her clients with their nursing issues, with their lactation issues. And sometimes there is a question of, do I run and serve this woman at 11 o'clock at night? And just like Hatzalah, which goes out to people's homes when there is an emergency, Raizy and I discussed that, yes, sometimes you will help a woman just from your kindness, from your chesed, and it's not going to be a business endeavor. And women who are paying you money for your services, we have to make sure we're putting boundaries around what times we're available, what days we're available, because our children also need us. Our husbands also need us. Our community also needs us. We also need us. We have to make sure that we're pouring into our cups. We have to make sure that we're filling our vessels so that we have enough to pour out to give to other people. We don't want our wells to run dry. So you have to be introspective, looking at your life, looking where your time is going, and putting in boundaries. So 2 boundaries that Raizy put in were around her time, the days and times that she was available, and also around money. Raizy made sure that her clients were paying her ahead of time. She started taking their credit card details before she went out to meet them. So if they woke up the next morning and they said, oh, the situation sorted itself out, she was paid for blocking out that time. And you know what happened? People stopped canceling. Most of her clients woke up the next morning and were happy to have that session with Raizy because she put in the boundaries that I'm taking your credit card details and I'm getting paid in advance before you show up. And if you're not getting paid in advance or on time by your clients, check out where your financial boundaries are. Because when you ask for that payment and people pay you, they pay attention to the fact that they are working with someone who means business. You're running a business. You have your boundaries around your money and around your time. If you are a creative where you are designing websites, you're providing copy, you're doing branding, my clients tell me that people come back to them over and over and over again, asking for edits and revisions. And they put a finishing touch on and another finishing touch and another finishing touch. If that's happening to you, you also need better boundaries. It needs to be in your client agreements that you give 3 edits. You give 3 reviews or 3 revisions. Or if that's the right number for you, maybe it's 2, maybe it's 3. When I recently redid the web page for Wired for Wealth, my web designer was very clear about the number of edits. And after I'd asked for 2 edits, I received an email. I'm just reminding you that you have 1 more edit. Make sure that all of your edits are in one file so you don't use this up on something small. And that might be another boundary that you need to be put in place so it's clear between you and your clients that you don't have to remind them, oh, you finished your edits. You want your customer experience, your customer journey to be clear. So if they've already used 2 revisions, make sure you're reminding them that they only have 1 left. You don't want them to get to the end and be like, nope, sorry, now you have to pay me more. Help your clients have a better client experience. Put boundaries around your time, the number of edits you give, the number of revisions, however you work with your clients, and make sure you put boundaries around your money. Let's talk about balance. This is point number 3. As a Jewish woman, as a Jewish entrepreneur, we have to make sure that we have time for us and we have time for our clients. We have time for our children. We have time for our spouse. We have time for our community. As I mentioned before, we have so many people, things, spiritual endeavors that are like pulling at us for our time. One thing you may not have remembered from last week's podcast is that Raizy started creating more balance for her in her life. And as she was growing her business and she had higher caliber clients working with her who were paying her in advance, she wasn't filling out the paperwork for this government agency. She had more time to fill her cup and she took up playing an instrument. It was a way for her to expand her other interests in life and to really become a more complex, more developed version of herself. Now she's adding music, she's adding more beauty, she's adding more depth to herself as a person. And where do you have some missing pieces that need to be filled up? For me, going out hiking with my husband, and yes, it was a fundraising hike. We were raising money for the Aline Pediatric Rehabilitation Hospital in Jerusalem, but being outside, being in nature, moving my body, and being with my husband, it was filling me up on an emotional, spiritual, physical level, and just seeing the beauty of God's world. And it was also expanding, my physical abilities, climbing over those rocks and pulling myself up. And it was also just spending time with my husband. It was such a life-giving experience. Me and nature and exercise and hiking are the way that I keep balance and create balance in my life. For Raizy, it's music. Where are you letting yourself down by not filling yourself up enough? There's this movement out there. Self-care, self-care, self-care. Everybody needs self-care. You need to take care of yourself first. And that becomes a very self-focused endeavor. We want to fill ourselves up, as I said before, so that you have more to pour out, so that you have more to give, so that you become a deeper, broader, more expanded version of yourself. And there's probably something in your life. It could only be 15 minutes a day. Maybe it's a class you want to listen to, something in Torah, something in Judaism where you want to create more of a connection with your roots, with your spirituality. What is it for you that needs to be grown and developed so that you have more balance in your life as a Jewish woman, as an entrepreneur, as a wife and a mother? Find that thing that's important for you. And the fourth point that I want to point out is growth as a business owner. Growth doesn't happen in a linear line. It happens in fits and starts. But 3 areas of Raizy's growth that I want to point out is, number 1 is that she raised her prices. 2 or 3 times since we started working together, Raizy raised her prices as a lactation consultant. The second thing she did is she had a group program already that she's offered. She's now offered it 3 or 4 times. She raised the price for her group program. But as a business owner, as someone who is taking up more space and letting more people know about what she's doing in the world, Raizy sent more emails than she had done in the past. She kept sending emails reminding people why this group program of hers is important. And she sent another one and another one. Sending emails is something that people feel like icky about doing. I'm bothering people. I'm annoying people. They don't want me to be in their inbox so much. Raizy kept sending emails. And what happened is she enrolled over 20 people in her group program. If I remember correctly, she was almost at her goal. Her goal was 25. She ended up enrolling 22 women in her group program because she kept reminding them of the value of this program. And that growth as a business owner is being willing to do uncomfortable things like raising your prices and sending more emails. The last piece of growth is that Raizy also started offering one-on-one life coaching. She created a new offering in her business because she was no longer working for this agency, because she was raising her prices, and she no longer had to work with these cancellations where people were not working with her, saying yes and then saying no. She actually had more time available in her calendar to work with one-on-one clients. And she also had the boundaries. She knew it could only be 2 one-on-one clients at a time. So my question for you now is, if you're looking at yourself as a business owner and where your growth needs to be, is your growth in your boundaries? Is your growth in your balance? Is your growth in sending out more emails? Is your growth in raising your prices? Is your growth in creating a new offering? And making sure that you're looking at the time you have available to serve your clients so that you can also be a mom, you can also be a wife, you can also be your own unique self in the world, and you're filling yourself up, and making sure that you're not overbooking yourself. Making sure that there is time for you. So being very, very clear around your boundaries, only 2 one-on-one clients. If I have more than 2 one-on-one clients, I'm going to be stretched too thin. That was Raizy's very clear message when she dropped into her intuition. And as we talked about last week on the interview, she is very intuitive, a very intuitive person in this world. That is her God-given gift. And when she was able to do that, she knew exactly where her boundaries were. And it was such a beautiful thing. So we have spoken about so much. There's been so many areas that I've talked about in this podcast where you can grow yourself as a Jewish woman entrepreneur? Is it around your boundaries, around your balance, around your growth? Is it that you need some cash flow? You need money coming into your family while you're growing your business. I would love to hear from you what you are taking away from this episode, because there is so much available for you as a business owner in the world when you create balance, when you create boundaries, and when you decide to grow in your business. All right, my friends, thank you for bearing with me with my little hoarse voice today. I appreciate your time. And I do want to remind you that Wired for Wealth is now open for enrollment. We are open until March 20th. Wired for Wealth is the #1 coaching program in the industry for Jewish women. In Wired for Wealth, we will create your signature offer so you know what is the special something that you are bringing to the world. Every single person in this world was created in God's image. God is limitless. Every single one of us has something unique and different and special to give to the world, and you want to discover what that is. We will create your signature offer. We will develop a marketing plan so that you go out into the world, find your people, and invite them in to work with you. And you will learn how to sell to your ideal clients over and over and over again, make more money in your business, raise your prices, make sure that you have enough money to take care of your family. That's what we do in Wired for Wealth, and I invite you in. Please go to my website, debbiesasson.com/wealth, and sign up for a consult, for a sales call, so we can discuss what the next best steps are for you in your business. All right, my friends, thank you for listening in, and I look forward to seeing you next week on the podcast. Bye-bye for now. Thanks for listening to the Jewish Entrepreneur Podcast. If you want to stop underselling and under-earning and close more sales, you need to clear the limiting money beliefs that are sabotaging your business growth. Head on over to debbiesasson.com/mindset and download my free Money Mindset Workbook. Uncover and dissolve money blocks like hundreds of other entrepreneurs who are now building 6, multi-6, and 7-figure businesses and creating true financial freedom.